So, when you think about what makes a democracy actually run, what comes to mind? You probably picture things like elections, constitutions, and laws, right? But what if the most important tools aren't written on paper at all? Today, we're diving into the essential human skills that, believe it or not, really power the entire system.
And that brings up a huge question. If you look past all the formal structures, what is the real engine of a democracy? It's not just about having the right rules, it's about how people, actual human beings, navigate their disagreements. And the answer, as we're about to see, is all about the art of communication.
And this really gets to the heart of it. See, democracy isn't about getting rid of disagreement. That's impossible. It's a system designed to channel it. The real magic happens when we use a specific set of interpersonal skills to turn conflict into functioning governance. We're calling this the democratic toolkit. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to break down this toolkit into 4 parts. First, we'll talk about persuasion, which is kind of the spark for any idea. Then we'll get into negotiation and compromise. That's the real hard work of finding common ground. After that, we'll look at the ultimate goal, which is consensus. And finally, we'll tie it all together and see why this toolkit matters so much, especially right now. All right, let's open up the toolkit. Our very first tool is persuasion. You have to start here, because this is the beginning of any democratic action. Before a law gets passed, before a movement even starts, someone, somewhere, has to convince other people that their idea is at least worth listening to. This is where change begins. So what is persuasion, really? At its core, it's the art of making a case. And this is important. It's not about forcing someone or tricking them. It's about using solid arguments and good old-fashioned reason to win people over to your point of view. Think of persuasion as the launch pad. It's that critical first step. Before a bill can even be debated, an idea has to get some traction. This is how new, maybe even radical ideas get into the conversation. It's what builds that initial support and lays the groundwork for every political debate that follows. But let's be real, persuasion can only get you so far. What happens when 2 people have equally persuasive arguments, but they completely contradict each other? Well, that's when you have to reach for the next tools in our kit, negotiation and compromise. Negotiation, that's the conversation. It's the active back and forth process. It's about bargaining, sure, but it's also about searching for creative solutions. It's what happens when people actually sit down at the table and start exploring all the possibilities to try and bridge that gap between them. And a lot of the time, the whole point of negotiation is to get to a compromise. Now, this is key. Compromise isn't about one side winning and the other losing. It's the exact opposite. It's about both sides giving a little, making concessions, so they can reach an agreement that actually works and lets everyone move forward. So you can see how these all fit together, right? It's like a natural progression. You start with persuasion to make your case. When you hit a wall, because the other side also has a good case, you move into negotiation. And if that negotiation is successful, you end up with a compromise. They're a team. And why is this so incredibly important? Well, without negotiation and compromise, you get nothing. You get gridlock. Everything just stops. These skills are like the oil in the engine of government. They keep things running by making sure different viewpoints are heard and that practical progress can actually be made. Okay, but what if you're aiming for something even bigger, something more powerful than just a simple deal? For the really big challenges, democracies often shoot for a much higher goal, consensus. The most important phrase here is actively support. This is a whole different level. Consensus isn't just about getting people to agree not to block a decision. It's a much deeper process of finding a solution that everyone in the group is genuinely on board with, so much so that they're willing to champion it. The difference here is huge. Think about it. A compromise gets you a workable deal. It's functional. Everyone can live with it. But a consensus, that creates a unified team. It's powerful. One is about finding an acceptable outcome, while the other is about finding the best outcome together. All right, so we've unpacked all the individual tools. Let's pull it all together now and talk about why this entire toolkit is basically the lifeblood of any functioning democracy. So let's do a quick recap. Persuasion gets the idea off the ground. Negotiation is how we find common ground. Compromise is how we seal a practical deal. And consensus, that's how we build truly unified support. Each tool has its own job, but they're all working toward the same thing. One source puts it perfectly. The democratic process depends on these skills for effective functioning. This highlights something so crucial. These aren't just soft skills or nice to haves. They are the fundamental mechanical gears of democratic government. At the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to: persuasion, negotiation, compromise, and consensus. These are the practical, hands-on tools a society uses to reach agreements and settle its differences without falling apart. It's the very essence of self-governance.
And that leaves us with one last really important question. Because these skills aren't just for politicians, not at all. We use them, or we could use them, every single day, in our families, at our jobs, in our communities. So in a world that feels more and more divided, maybe the real challenge is this: how can we, each and every one of us, get better at using this essential toolkit?